wife, they opened a small ironmonger's business in New Toxteth, which is about 5 miles down the road from here, mainly servicing the local farming communities. But over a period of time, they had 11 children between them. Yeah. And the eldest of those children was a chap called Samuel. And there's a portrait of Samuel up there in later years with his wife. There's another family photograph there. Well, Sam, when he left school, he had a very inventive mind. And he started to invent such things like cast iron water taps you see there, small farming implements, farm troughs, that sort of thing. And he persuaded his father to purchase a plot of land on which to build a foundry. Well, that foundry became known as the Leighton Iron Works, and they started producing what you see here, a range of farming equipment. And this is just a small variety of what they actually did produce. They went right up to the large combined harvesters like these. But as time went by, they then went into the stationary engine business, again for the farming industry. And at this point, they set up a new company called the Litchfield Agricultural Company, which subsequently became Bamford Limited. And it was one of Sam's brothers, a chap called Cyril, who was said to head this company up. Well, Cyril and his wife had 5 children, and the oldest of those children was our founder, Mr. JCB. That's a portrait of young Joe Bamford there at the age of 21. Well, Joe went to work for Bamford Limited, but in 1945 he decided it wasn't what he wanted to be doing for the rest of his life, and he'd like to venture out and try something of his own. Well, he lived in New Toxteth with his wife, and what he did, he rented a garage, and there's a mock-up of that garage here. It cost him 30 shillings a week to rent this garage. He bought himself some second-hand equipment, and Mr. Bamford's original welding set cost him £1 second-hand. Little pillar drill over in the corner there, and one or two other pieces of equipment that he needed to go into his first venture, which was farm trailers. Now the trailer you see here, this is a later model. This one has a hydraulic ram for a tipping trailer. The original one had a manual screw jack with wooden panel sides. But everything on that trailer came from recycled parts. Just after World War II, everything was in very short supply, especially metal, so we had to recycle everything. And if you just turn around and look at the screen over there, that represents VE Day, Victory in Europe, and it's on a corrugated screen. Well, that corrugated screen represents air raid shelters, the old Anderson shelters of World War II. Well, obviously, after the war, we didn't need these anymore, so we could recycle that material. Well, Mr. Bamford bought some. He knew someone that could roll it out flat for him, so it rolled flat, and used that in the production of these early trailers. As I said, everything was recycled, including the wheels and tyres. They either came off of World War II jeeps or lorries, or even aircraft that were being decommissioned, all recycled.
So that will make manufacturing a lot cheaper.
Well, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. We just couldn't get anything special. It was actually recycled. Now the first cart that he made, he took it to Toxteth Farmers Market to sell for £90, but on the day he only achieved £45 in part exchange for an old trailer. Well, he took that old trailer away, reconditioned it, brought it back next week, sold that for £45, making his first £90 profit. So that's where we started from there. So if you look where we are now, we're in a rented garage, using second-hand equipment, manufacturing trailers out of recycled parts for £90 a time. We've come a long way in the last 72 years. We're now a multi-billion-pound company with factories worldwide. So the Bamford family have done very well for themselves. Yeah?
It's amazing.
It is really. Just moving over to these photographs on the wall here. One in the corner here. This is 1947. This is Mr. JCB. This young man here is the man who just saw on the film show downstairs, Lord Bamford, our chairman, and his 3 first workforce here. These 2 chaps are fabricators, welders, and the young man at the end there, his name was Bill Hurst. And young Bill joined Mr. Bamford's firm at the age of 15 directly from school. And his role in the company then was to make cups of tea for these guys and keep the workplace tidy. He was just a general dog's body really. But he ended up being a director of our company, heading up worldwide sales, and he's still alive today, he's in his late 80s. Yeah. Very nice man. The young lady in this photograph, this is Meg Bamford, this is Mr. Bamford's wife. Again with young Auntie in her arms there. And her role in the original company, we're told, was to drive a small van around to go and collect parts they needed to build their trailers with. It just goes to emphasise the fact that we were and still are, a family business. We're now 2nd generation with Anthony Bamford as our chairman, third generation, one of Anthony's sons, hopefully will take over from him. But as you can see, when we first came in over there, the Bamford family have been in the engineering business since the early 1800s, which really is quite considerably longer than most of our competitors. So that's a little bit of history. Let's have a look at some of the machines. Okay, the machine you see here, this is the first true backhoe loading machine that Mr. Bamford produced. We've already got a tractor with a bolt-on loading shovel at the front end. Mr. Bamford went on to develop the backhoe. And the story behind this is that he was on a sales expedition to Norway many years ago, and he saw a crude backhoe digging a trench in the field and thought that he could do better. They brought one back to this country, stripped it down, redesigned it from the ground up, and came up with a prototype that sits in our main entrance hall downstairs at Yellow Piece and Falls. But as that developed, it developed into this A-frame bolt onto a tractor unit, making it the first true backhoe loader. And around about the same time in 1953, he then went on to develop this piece of equipment over here, the side rollick. Again, a bolt onto a tractor unit, this time a little Ferguson tractor. And at the time in the 1950s, it was £75 each, which at the time was a lot of money for JCB. Also, these are like the early trailers on the early models, and your fathers may have been one of them. Some parts also came from recycled materials. If you look to the main structure beam on that says JC Bamford on it, that heavy pipe over there on the early models, that came from underground water mains that Mr. Bamford had bought cheaply somewhere. They're very keen eye for a bargain too. I saw some going cheaply, but I could use that. And that's how it evolved over the years. So that was 1953. Let's move down now to 1961, we now got the JCB3 backhoe loader. Well, we've now got a machine that looks like a proper JCB machine. It's in the famous JCB yellow with the red buckets and the red wheels. No longer do we need somebody else's tractor unit, this is all JCB. And the significance of this machine was that you could park this machine up against the wall, you could dig a hole 8 foot square and 8 foot deep without repositioning the machine. Careful, don't fall. It goes on forever. So yeah, it was a good selling point for that machine, that you didn't have to keep repositioning the machine. All you'd have to do is move the backhoe across the slide at the back end of the machine, sliding backhoe. So it was a good selling point. And also with this machine, if you look at the backhoe and the loading arms, you'll notice that the JCB logos on there are welded on plates. Well, many years ago when I first started working for Mr. Bamford, there was one man on our assembly line here at Roadster whose sole job was to stand there all day and hand paint those logos on. Very laborious job, and if he got it wrong and the paint ran, we'd have to paint it out and start again. Yeah, so both sides of the backhoe, both sides of the loading arm. But today, of course, it's all stick-on transport. If you turn around now and look above your heads, you can see all the various logos that we've used over the years. The one that I've got on my shirt pocket here. And this just goes to emphasise the fact that over years we've relaunched and rebranded our products to keep them current in the marketplace. So dare say, another few years' time, that logo will change once more. It'll be different than that.
I never realised the logo changed. I'd always thought it was like yellow.
It's changed. If you look at that one, there's white on that one.
Yeah.
Now, in this exhibition, there's a timeline. It starts here in the 1940s, and it weaves its way right the way through the exhibition. Model of the garage we've just been in, give you an idea what it looked like. Photograph of the actual garage that you topsies on. Now, when you leave here today, as you go down the road, just look to your right-hand side, you'll see some big wrought iron gates with a JCB logo on, and just behind that is the exact scale replica of this building. It was built before Mr. Bamford died, and it was opened by our Queen in recognition to all his services to industry and excellence. So to give you a better idea of what it actually did. Okay. Model here of the original farm cart with the manual screw jack and the wooden panel sides. Now when we go on our exhibition today, I'll take you and show you the original cart. We have one on site here, and you'll be able to take a photograph of that as well. Okay. Now about 1948, that little lock-up garage was getting a bit tight for space, so Mr. Bamford moved to a place called Craig Marsh Hall, which is about 2 miles down the road from here. He rented some stable blocks there, and he continued manufacturing trailers at that factory. Then again in the 1950s, as business continued to grow even more, he moved to where we are today at Roaster. And there's a photograph here of the original factory on this site. It was in fact an old cheese factory. Cheese factory here because there was a lot of dairy farming in this area. Also, okay. All the posters on the walls down here, these are all original posters promoting our products over the years. There is a little bit of film footage here showing you the sidronic in action. Photo opportunity, you want to go stand by the machine, holding it up. It wouldn't start to creep down across their car. So there's a bit of a publicity gimmick really. If you want to come up here, you can see the powertrain through the mirrors. And this machine has got a British Leyland engine, but over time we've used Perkins, Leyland, Cummins, Ford, and now of course we've got our own engine, the JCB powertrain, which I'll show you a little later on. And this was the first machine that we started putting our own axle and transmissions in. We opened a factory in North Wales producing axle and transmissions, and this was the first model that it went on. And of course this was also part of the famous dancing digger routine. You saw a little bit on the film show downstairs. He went out in his Rolls Royce and he personally delivered a kettle to each of the drivers of these machines. And this was so that the driver could make himself a cup of tea in the cab. He didn't have to stop work to go away somewhere. He could make a cup of tea in the cab of the machine and carry on working, making that machine more productive for the owner. So it was again a bit of a publicity gimmick. If you just come over here, one of the kettles in the display here. 12-volt kettle, chap making himself a brew. And there's also a photograph of the Cadillac under the machine in the corner.
It was the only car.
You might have noticed on the right-hand side of this display is a young lady in a painted dress. Now this is a composition that was done by one of Anthony Bamford's sons, George Bamford, who's in the photographic business, so it's one of his designs. And represent Marilyn Monroe in a JCB painted dress, that's what that's all about. This is our patent vault. Each one of these tubes carries a patent number. This is very, very strong international patents, protecting our brands from being copied by anybody. Now this was put in about 14 years ago, so I dare say there's a lot more patents to go on. I'm not going to dig this up and put them in. Yeah. What you see is what you get, but they are very strong patents. I'm just comparing now to the JCB motor scooters. Did you know we make motor scooters?
No,
I didn't.
No, we don't. Still haven't read it. Now the story behind this was that many years ago there was a scooter dealer in Blackburn. And he was selling motor scooters that had the registration plates JCB1 to JCB10 on them. Well, Mr. Bamford got to hear about this, of course, so he sent a lorry up to this little company with a bag full of money, bought the whole lot, brought them back here to his little cheese factory at Roaster. First thing he does, of course, is take the number plates off the scooters, JCB1 goes onto his Rolls Royce, the rest go onto other vehicles. Well, over the 72 years that we've been in business, we've been slowly collecting number plates. Anything's got JCB on it, we collect. And you may see some around the factory today on lorries or cars.
We've seen JCB 6
Yeah, you'll see lots.
on
we must
one
have about 70 or 80 now.
on a lorry on the way down here, didn't we?
my cousin on his personalised number plate has got JCB on it. On his, what's he got?
BAM4D, BAM4. Yeah, I've driven it. Just going over now to the model diggers here. This is reputedly to be one of the largest collections of JCB models in the world. Now if you look in there, you'll notice that some of them are in gold on wooden plinths, yeah? Well, many years ago when I first started working for Mr. Bamford, we were just a small concern, they used to give those to people on their retirement, part of their farewell package. Today, of course, we're such a large concern, it's got a little bit more impersonal, we don't bother doing this anymore. For instance, on this site alone, there are approximately 3,200 people at any one time. Across the UK is about 6,500 people, and across the globe about 14 to 15,000. Keeps growing every year. So yeah, it's a little bit more impersonal. As I say, they don't do this anymore, which is a pity because, as I said, I took early retirement 3 years ago and I didn't get one of those.
Oh.
I'm not bitter about it. They give you a little gold pin instead.
Oh,
But that's what that's all about. Just over there, the aircraft you see, Mr. Rumford was a very keen pilot. In fact, that's his flying jet pilot's licence. And when he accumulated a bit of wealth, like you do, you treat yourself, so he bought himself a little aeroplane, one in the right-hand corner there, Havilland Dove. But over the years we've been in business, we've bought and sold various planes. We now have the one in the left-hand corner here, the Gulfstream, and that can fly to America.
didn't know
Similar with
that.
helicopters, we've bought and sold those over the years. We now have the one on the left-hand side here, and that's the one that brings Lord Bamford to work every day from his home in Gloucestershire. But the aircraft and the helicopters, they are purely business tools, and they're designed to get our customers and clients here from wherever they are in the world to do their business and get them back again as soon as possible. That's what they're for, business. Although, of course, the family do use them. And if we're sending anyone to another factory in the world very urgently, we may use the jet for that. I've been fortunate enough to fly in this one a few years ago. I went down to Lyon in France, from East Midlands Airport. And as you'd expect, it's all very plush inside, born up in here and leather seating. And,
It's good business when you're getting people in.
exactly, yeah. You know, if you've got a very important client spending a lot of money with JCB, to pick them up in the jet, bring them in, and helicopter from East Midlands and to do the business, it is really good.
Spectacular, isn't it?
And we're just opening, just across the road from the factory, an 18-hole international golf course and a hotel complex, again for all our clients, so they can come here to do the business on the golf course.
Good idea.
So that's what that's all about. Yeah, they found that a few months ago. I don't know where they got it from, but they found it in must have been in an attic somewhere. But that's his original flying jacket and his pilot's license from years ago. Go down this little corridor here that pictures on both sides. These were produced probably about 14 years ago now. And it's what some of our designers thought the future of JCB might look like. And if you look at them, some of them really are quite close to what we actually do produce. One or two exceptions, of course. I don't think we're going to be producing these robots anytime soon. There's a transformer over there. I don't think we're going to be building one of those either. But you never know. The machines here, the one on this side, this is the Lodal 520, and this is the first Lodal that we produced. And this really revolutionised both the farming and the construction industry with this machine. It could lift about 2 tonne in weight, and I believe it could reach out about 8 foot and up about 12 foot, which was really phenomenal in those days. And today, of course, we've got machines that can reach about 60, 70 foot. So it was a really good machine. And these are built on this site at Roast today. And I think now the Lodal is taking over the #1 selling machine from the backhoe loader. On this site now we're producing approximately 106 machines per day, and they're all sold. We only manufacture to sell. The machine on this side, this is the 110B, and this is a fully hydrostatic machine. There's no gearbox, no clutch, no steering wheel or lever control. Very good visibility all round, very large payload on it, and it converts the turn on the spot. And when we introduced this machine many years ago, it was a really revolutionary high-tech machine. In fact, it was so revolutionary and high-tech that we couldn't sell it, nobody wanted to buy it. It wasn't viable to continue manufacturing, so we just dropped the idea and never made them again. But of course, since then, some of our competitors went on to make similar machines. So it's a very good machine, just a little bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
Okay, we're coming to the party there. Where Anthony Bamford, now Lord Bamford, took over the running of the factory in 1975 when Mr. JCB retired. And he took us into the world market. And today, we have 11 factories in the UK and roughly about, I think it's about 15 factories overseas. Seems to be we open a new factory every other month nowadays. So in this area here, just showing you where all these factories are, what we're producing. This paper top here, all the factories in the UK. There are things over there where factories in the world, China, Brazil, India, USA. And there is a little map of India in the far corner there, showing where 3 of our factories are. Since that map was put up, I believe we've opened another 3 factories in India. We're producing a full range of equipment over there, mainly for the Asian markets. And today, there are over 300 different JCB products on the marketplace and growing. We're always looking for the next innovation. I think the last factory that we opened was in China, another factory there producing scissor lifts and cherry pickers, which is a new venture for us. Yes, as I say, I want to take a copy of the factory in the UK. The hydraulic business unit is on this site. We produce all the hydraulic rams, all the muscle of the machine really. In the centre, where the film show is there, that's where we are today, the global world headquarters. And this is where we manufacture the backhoe loader and the loaders, and also our latest product, the dump truck. Everything else here is just showing you what we produce and where it's produced in this country. And a lot of it arrives here on a daily basis.
This is the central hub.
This is for the backhoe loader and the loader machines. Like, so the engines arrive, the axles and transmissions arrive, hydraulic rams, they'll all arrive here. The attachments, that sort of thing.
Oh, that's the attachment.
Fast track. This is manufactured of tube.
When he retired, he had to get rid of it.
Sorry?
When he retired, he had to get rid of it, but he didn't want it to go.
No.
But obviously now,
We're still making lots of these now. Until he retired in 1975. Out that way is where it says hydraulic business unit. That was his research factory.
Okay.
So he got all his research machines were there. Out there was his design office.
Can we take photos?
Yeah, you can take photographs. Yeah, you can. And he was very hands-on, so he used to go out there, tinker with drawings, down on the shop floor, playing with the machines, so he got it just how he wanted to before he launched that product. He also liked a lot of stuffed animals, so lions and tigers, giraffes, elephants, all around this area up there. Design office out there, just the other side of this glass screen here, going out about 7 or 8 foot, there was an aviary full of live birds. Through this doorway, I can't take it in there, but through this here was his private bathroom, and it was all gold fittings.
Wouldn't know there was anything through there, it's disguised. Yeah. Okay, God, he had his own private bathroom.
Oh, well, yeah. And we still use this for doing business with. We've got a very important clients buying a lot of machines. We bring them in here, they sit around that round table there, and that's where they sign all their contracts. And we give them some champagne, and we treat them very nicely indeed. Now, if you want a photograph sitting at the desk, quite.
Do you want a photo?
Yeah, yeah.
As long as you don't touch anything. This 800 series machine, there's a Cheadle up 8 miles up the road from here. That's a mid-range machine. They go down to the ones that will fit through doorways, up to a large one. And also in Cheadle we built the telly trucks, the utility vehicles, and there's also the fast track factory over there and the earth moving factory. The screens over here is just going to represent that wherever we've got such our business in the world, we try to integrate with local population, so we're helping with health centres and schooling, that sort of thing. The screen on this end here represents our academy, JCB Academy, which is set up in an old arc mill the other side of Roaster Village where we are today. And we're training up the next generations of engineers for us in there. And we've also just opened a new apprentice school as well. And the one in the middle here, that represents our chosen charity, which is the NSPCC. And a few years ago, Lord Bamford asked all of his factory employees to raise £1 million for that charity for doing various fun runs and city events. And he said that if we raised £1 million, he would give us another £1 million on top of that. Well, he did, we didn't, he did. And so with that money we bought a house in Newcastle under Lyme, which is about 15 miles away from here. It's called Carroll House after his wife, Lady Carroll, who heads up that charity. And we look after all the NSP. And this is the fast track chassis. The chassis, the braking system, suspension units, all designed by JCB. The chassis wasn't manufactured at JCB, it's manufactured for us in the same way that the car chassis are manufactured, so it's very similar construction to that. There is a bit of a film show. When it's finished, we'll start again, so we'll stop and watch that. Machines here, a little bit of a film show there showing you what they actually look like. But what you see here is an exact scale replica of the JS200, which is a 20-ton machine. Yeah, obviously we couldn't get a 20-ton machine up on this floor, so we had that specially commissioned for us. It's manufactured out of 8mm bar, exact scale replica. And we manufacture these in between 10 and 50-ton machines. So this is the mid-range one. We're also doing it in the wheel version as well. Also at Utoxia we were manufacturing road rollers. We're on the film show in a second or two. There's a German company we bought out many years ago called Vibramax. We started producing these at Utoxia. Now I believe they're being manufactured in India. So that's the heavy product. Just moving on down now to 1997, this is where we introduced this truck here, the Tele-truck. And this took over from the old forklift trucks, the straight up and down marks. We've now got a machine that can reach out, reach over, reach through. It makes it a lot more versatile. Very tight turning circle on this machine as well. And for instance, with this machine, you can load and unload a lorry from one side. With conventional forklift truck, you have to go around both sides, so it makes it a lot more useful. And this is what we use here at Roadster on our factory floor. When we go down, we see lots of these going around and doing all the donkey work for us. Yeah, very good machine. And just behind you here, we've got the 515 telescopic loadle, and this is the smallest loadle that we produced on this site. And the story behind this was that there was a chicken farmer many years ago in France who had a lot of sheds with very low roofs, and he couldn't get a conventional truck in there. That prompted us to go away and design this sort of machine. We've got a full-size cab, but just a smaller machine base altogether. But since we started to introduce this, it's become very popular with contracting companies. Because of its size, it's more capable of getting onto the smaller building size and narrow roadwork and that sort of thing. It's become a very popular selling machine. That's quite a lot. In the corner here, this is the powertrain. This is what goes into all the backhoe loading machines. The engines are built in our power systems factory along the A50 towards Derby, about 15 miles away. And the axles and transmissions in our transmission factory in North Wales at Wrexham. And these arrive here on a daily basis to go into our machines. So when we go on the factory floor a little later on, you can see lots of these down there. The only difference being, this is a nice shiny one, one's left there. Okay. This represents our after-sales side of the business, if you like, the World Parts Centre. We have a World Parts Centre in Utoxia, distributes out spare parts to other parts centres throughout the world. And what it means to our customers is that should your machine need a replacement part, within 24 hours of ordering it, wherever you are in the world, you'd have it on your machine. And that's a very important part of our business. Not just the quality of the machine, it's the after-sales service that we provide. This is a key part of the business, I'd say. It's what keeps our customers coming back to us time and time again. They know we're going to keep their machines running because they're very expensive, so they've got to be productive. So it's a very key part. Okay. Now we come to the diesel maps. This is the fastest diesel car in the world. It broke the land speed record of over 350 miles per hour. Has two engines in this machine, one in the front and one in the rear. Exactly the same as the one you see in the glass case here, the JCB 444. It's designed, developed and built by JCB Power Products. So it's the fastest diesel in the world. We took this over to the bonnet.
My colleague here is discussing about the other thing we can
So we use this really to promote our own engine brand. We went to the engine business. This was to show the world that this is what we can do with diesel engines. And see some of the engines here. We've got the Tier 3 engine on the left hand side there, which was superseded now by Tier 4 and 6 cylinder engines. These are all fuel efficient engines, all clean burn, all fall in line with the latest regulations on emissions. And this is what goes into most of our machines today. And we'll also sell these to third parties, providing, of course, they're not one of our competitors here. Yeah.
It's got a deep sump on that, isn't it?
We just brought out a new engine, a lighter weight engine, which is now going into all of our load-all machines. I've not seen one. We'll have one on display here soon. And these are built, as I say, in a power systems factory just along the A50. And we've also got a factory in
Yeah. Scale model.
Yeah, a lot of the offices in the building have got one of them. If they're one of the directors, little skid steering machine here. This used to be built at Chile. It's now being built in America. Purely because that's where the marketplace for this machine is nowadays over there. That's 65% of the market. Again, a little lever controlled machine, no steering wheel. Can virtually turn on the spot. It's very, very manoeuvrable. I had to go in one of these a few years ago when I used to produce at Cheadle, and it threw me all over the place because it's sort of lever controlled. It's very, very difficult to get to use how they operate. But yeah, good machines. But along with this machine in America, we also build all the military machines under license over there. Photograph one of them here. This is the American version called the Hemi. After one of them here. Then you've got the rocket-proof casing on the outside, bulletproof glass, very thick armour plate. This one's got a bullet hole here, but you put your finger in there, it'll go through sort of bump at the back. Very robust machines. And the Americans are a lot. But they're all developed and designed here at JCB at Roaster, and they're being built in America. A few of the models here. Got the backhoe loader and the load-all machines. If you look at these, you'll notice how low down they are, squat-built machines. And this is to allow them to be transported in aircraft or strung under helicopters. Also, if you look at them, you'll notice that the exhaust pipes are either on top of the machine or facing up, and that allows them to be operating 2 metres of salt water for up to 2 hours without breaking down, so it makes them a lot more versatile. Yeah. Like the fast tracks, these go along the road at very high speeds. In fact, if you look at the backhoe loader there, the front end of that machine is actually designed for fast track. And we sell quite a lot of these, a few more of these model range over there, and we'll sell them to anybody in the world who wants them. Yeah, very good. Over the years, in the background showing you various politicians and royal family members that have visited our factories all over the world. Over the years that I've worked for the Bamfords, I've been lucky enough to meet most of the royal family over the years. This tapestry is called fabric. There's David Cameron there, and that's where he was in Brazil, opening a factory for us there. Everything nowadays. It's a place of the earth.
On the beach in Brazil.
Yeah, more than that.
Just like to come down to Cornwall, doesn't it?
Beautiful. You'll probably see Margaret Thatcher in a second there. The glass case on the left-hand side here, this has a lot of family photographs in it. I'll just point one or two of them out to you. The one in the centre here, chap in the white shirt, that's Lord Bamford. The man standing next to him is his brother Mark. Mark looks after all the transport side of the business, cars, lorry fleets, that sort of thing. Family shot here, we've got Lord Bamford, his wife Lady Carol, and his 2 sons. The one on this side is George, the photographer. Right. The other one is young Joseph Bamford. He's in the property developing business at the moment, I believe. But they both learnt our business here at Roaster, and hopefully one of those will take over from Father when he retires. Young lady in the middle photograph here, that's Alice, and that's his daughter. She lives in America, and she's in the design business. The photograph down here, Mr. Bamford in later years with the Queen when she came to open our little garage across the road. And again with White Meg down on this side here. And as I say, these are all family shots. There is in the middle there, in one of the planes of his two grandchildren. Or two of his grandchildren, I should say. So that would have probably been, it's either young Joseph there and Alice probably. A little bit of family tree for interested in genealogy.
Yep.
And then we come to you're going to see various model types. This one obviously in the JCB, in the Union Jack livery. As far as I'm aware, we manufactured 3 like this. One you see here, one which is also to help the heroes, and another one I was told we had a Russian gentleman visit us some time ago. We saw this one here and decided he wanted one as well.
Fair enough.
Bar cab door there, you can see a black dome shape by the window there, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in this machine, that's the kettle.
Oh,
Like the early machines with kettle, you can have a kettle
Oh, they
in the
still have a
modern.
kettle in.
Yeah, you can have one if you want one. You'll pay for it. If you want to stand on the grass, you can stand on the back over there. Good shot.
Do you want one, Karen? You see a fish down there? See them?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Ducks. You can see them.
Mm-hmm.